Hey there, it's Will. We're going to go through the markets and look at some sectors, strong sectors and stocks that you could look at. So as usual, basically, let's take a look at Nasdaq. It's been in a bit of a downward channel, but we're getting up above the 50-day moving average now with some higher lows here. You can see. I'll turn on the drawings. So I've drawn this, slope here. But we also have this downward channel, and we're getting close to the top of the channel there. So, the tricky thing when you're looking at technical analysis is the resistance above. So you've got a channel, you've got the 200-day, and then you might have previous highs, like right here, there was support. Whenever you have like a point that things change, and especially if there's multiple touches of that line, you could see this right here as 4 points of contact, so of that line right there. So we're right about at that point along with this channel. So we'll see how far it gets, but if you're buying, like, say, after a pullback like this in an uptrend and it's bounced off the 50, you could use the 50-day or below the 50 somewhere as your mental stop, because at least it's not a huge amount of distance away from, like you're not going to ride it all the way down or something. So you've got a risk point, a pretty good risk reward situation. But if you go to the weekly chart, I'll turn off the lines, but you had a spot around here where it bounced off the 50. It didn't quite cross on the momentum though, and there was a down sloping momentum. Now you have a cross, but you're quite low in terms of the price percent oscillator. And that's where turnarounds can happen, but it's also where, there's weakness as well. Because if you look at the 2020 rise, this whole time we were way up above the zero line of the price percent oscillator. So you can see how it's just completely declined. So you do get a turnaround, but you also have to balance that against weakness. So if this thing reverses and goes down, you've got another lower high. So you've got the high here, then you've got a high point there. If this doesn't last and goes back down, you're going to have another lower high. So there's still vulnerabilities there. So you have to know where you're going to get in and where you're going to get out if it goes down. So, and people have different interpretations of what the Fed's saying in terms of they're going to be raising rates, which people expect, but the recession and earnings, some earnings are good, some are bad. So some people think that they've pivoted now and we're going to start, they're not going to be going up too much more, but they did say they're going to be playing it by ear, sort of based on the data that comes in. So it's not really necessarily over, but there is a bounce right now which you can ride. Even if it's a bear market rally, you can ride that for days or weeks, so you don't have to stay in forever. So if we look at the S&P 500, similar situations. Let me just turn on the drawing. We have this channel up here, which is up at around the 200, but this trend was broken, but this bigger, longer term downtrend it hasn't reached that. But you might get a spot where it goes from the 50 up to the 200 in terms of your risk reward, your target price. But there is resistance here, as I mentioned in the previous one, similar situation, where you have these points, these high points or support points that turn into resistance. So we're getting close to that spot right around there. I can put a line. It's not an exact science, but you have this rough spot here that we've. But the good thing is that you have higher lows, and you even came back and supported off of the 50 right there. And we're now getting up above the zero line. So you see how it got up above zero here and then it turned around. So, there's no guarantees at all, obviously, but we have broken this kind of downtrend here, but you know, we need to see more activity, more upward trends, but it's doing pretty well. IWM, which is the Russell 2000, right at the top of that channel. You see how it bounced there, and then even this one bounced off the 50-day. So it's in a downward trend, but you know, we do have now some higher, like here we had a higher low from this one up to here, and then it bounced, and we have higher lows, but you know, doesn't mean it has to go on forever, but you know, that's a good sign when you start to see that. It's just, and the momentum's up above zero, but that's where things can turn around either off the channel or at the 200 or something like that. So there's a short-term opportunity that's been going on for a little while now, so you know, we're not sure how long that's going to last. The Dow, same thing. This is right at the top of the channel that I drew here. But you know, we did start to see this go up. We're above the zero momentum. But you know, this is a risky time to get in the sense of the channel. On the positive side, we had support at that 50-day. So if you do get in, you know, start with a small incremental amount and use the 50-day probably as your, you know, somewhere around there as your stop, below there somewhere. That's all I wanted to say about the main indices. It started out at 1% gain. This is in pre-market. Oh yeah, I'm using TC2000, and you can see that it says 9:07 a.m. pre-market. So you're seeing pre-market. If I go to like a 10-minute chart, you'll see a gray area. That's where the pre-market price is going. So you're seeing the real-time data in the pre-market, and then it was a 1% or so, and now it's 0.5. So you know, we might have a bit of a drop today. It's starting to go down a little bit. These are all positive, but we'll see what happens. But this is pre-market, and the volume's usually not as much. But so then I have another tab. So the nice thing about TC1000 is I have multiple tabs here. If you want to get a free trial or $25 off your purchase of your membership, you can check out the link in the description below the video. I use this every day. I love it. I've got all sorts of things that I try to share, you know, in terms of formulas and sort of how I set up things. But another tab I have is called US sectors, and these are ones that I've individually added to a watch list because there's so many US stocks. If I go to watch list here, which is a feature, you can see here it says ETFs, US stocks, Canadian common stocks, or Canadian ETFs. So if I click on ETFs, I get a list of, down here it says 3,171. Some of them have low volume, and there's repetitive sort of things. So I try to pick one or two ETFs in any particular sector that I like, that have good volume. And, you know, they represent different sectors in the markets. So there's different ways you can sort of sort and figure out which ones you want to get into. I've got these charts here, columns for above weekly. So that's above the weekly V-stop. So if I go to the weekly chart, which is a longer term trend, you can see we broke this big downtrend on the tan, which is solar. And this week we just popped up above the 50 week, and a bit of a higher low here. So that's a good trend, and it gapped up quite a bit. So what happens sometimes is you get this gap up, and people, you know, you want to jump in, and that's fine. But what can happen is you'll get a pullback, so people set profit taking, and then you look for that next leg up. So like if you see this pullback here, and then you get across like right there. So I'll just draw a line so you can see, you know, if you had this pullback after you get this big gap up, and then you wait for that candle to cross that, break that, and then you could get in there. But you're going to use the low, like recently around here, as your stop mentally. And then so you see how it pulled back here. It didn't quite get there before it starts going up again. That's one way to do it. So I can sort by weekly and look at things that are strong on a weekly trend. I have these 5-day, 30-day, and 90-day performance. So that's just a formula for the close, today's close minus the close 5 periods ago, and 30 periods and 90 periods ago. And then I can sort, so I can find the strongest currently that are like within the last And that's obviously the solar, because of that U.S. government potential bill, like the solar promotion that they're doing. So environmental type stuff is doing well. Hydrogen is an ETF as well. HGen, that's similar. So that's why sometimes I have more than one for a particular, sector. Uranium, we have a bit of we're above the 50 now, getting close to above zero for the moving average of the price percent oscillator. Oil still doing well. It's had a pullback, but then it's starting to do well again. So you see here on the weekly chart, we have it's above the green volatility stop. This is the end of the week, Friday. We've had this pullback to the 50 week, and now we're potentially going to continue up. So you see how it bounced a couple times off the 50 week, and again, so this is an indication that could be. And there's like XOP, XLE, OIH is the oil services. They're all sort of doing this potential reversal here. There is some resistance. Obviously, there's a 200 and a 50 there, but so that's one way I sort by recent 5-day or 30-day is a bit longer duration. Ethereum is an ETF for Ethereum crypto. If you wanted to get those instead, you can see we pulled back and we supported at the 50. That's a very strong support, and you can use that as your stop. It's a good risk situation. Sometimes things that do well for 30 days, they start to pull back, like the ARK fund. It has a bit of an uptrend here. It's above the 50, but it's had some bad results with Roku and Teladoc as well. And so it's in a bit of a vulnerable state, but it has shown some strength lately. But the pre-market right now, it's down 2.3 because Roku was down 20-something% yesterday. So after hours, so that one is a bit dicey. You'll have to see what happens with the charts. But on a 30-day chart, you've got the biotech as well as far as strength. A little bit weak lately. It's been flat for a couple weeks. So you'd want to see if you're going to get in. You can see the momentum crossing down. You want to see a breakout above that resistance here. Yeah, so you're starting to get up there, in terms of the green volatility stops on the weekly chart, but it's been pretty flat with some dojis there. So, but and that goes for the germ. Germ is another one. XBI, ARKG. Not looking great right now. Just little dojis and flat, sort of curling over with the momentum. For any of these ETFs with a TC2000, you can click on it, the component watch list, and you can see the stocks like Pacific Biosciences. I can sort by percent change. This Intellia Therapeutics is doing really well. If I go to the weekly chart, we just bounce off the 200, just below the 200 week, and it's coming back up again. So that way you can find stocks within an ETF. Moderna, it's pulling back here after a long breakout, a long pullback, and it has another pullback here. So you'd want to see it break that downtrend. So what you can do with TC2000, what I do is I draw a line. If I'm interested in something, I'm just giving you an example here. I would draw a trend line like this, and I want to see it cross back up over it. So then I right click on that and I say set alert. And then it says alert me when it crosses the trend line. And then I don't have to watch it all the time. And that'll extend, the trend line extends, over time. But basically, you'll get notified text message, in a pop up here. You can set it up however you want to be notified. And so you can put things in a watch list. You can set alerts, and that way you don't have to be, because you'll forget things. You look at a lot of stuff and you don't really remember what you looked at sometimes. So this way you can, automate that to some extent, run your scans and have your alerts set up to be on top of some of these things that you want to get into. So hope that helps for today. If you want to get TC2000, like I said, check out the link in the description below the video. You can get $25 off your purchase or a free trial. I've got the US real-time data and the gold plan. So the US real-time data gives me real-time. For Canada, there's a 50-minute delay. They don't have real-time data for that. And the gold plan is good enough for me. It has, you know, like everything I need in terms of alerts and the stuff that they provide for that. So good luck, guys, and we'll talk to you in the next video.